Welcome back to Defying Expectations. My name is Ralph Kubli and I'm a board member at the Casper Association. Today I'm joined by Willy Brammertz to talk about smart contracts and in particular actually smart financial contracts. Smart financial contracts are a special kind of smart contract and I would say probably the ideal type of a smart contract. In my opinion, smart financial contracts will actually support the dramatic transformation of finance. Now Willy, you've been in risk and finance for all of your professional life. The products and software that you have created are probably powering over 400 banks in cash flow planning today and risk management. What is finance?
Finance is very special. It's the exchange of payments of cash flows over time. I give you, now you will give it back to me over time, following some rules.
That sounds like financial contract. That's like we're entering into contracts, I guess, on exchanging cash flows. So then, what are the specific features of a financial contract?
We already said, first we exchange cash flows. And what are cash flows? Today, they are pure numbers. So what we exchange are numbers, which can be fully represented in computers. And even more, these numbers, which are a sequence, are connected via algorithms, which can be also read by a computer, represented by a computer.
So how would this look like for a bond or for a mortgage?
We see here on the picture on the left side, we see a typical bond. You have first money out, then you get interest, money comes back. Or on the right side, a little bit more complex mortgage, also money out. Then there is some complexity about capitalization, but then you start paying back over time for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, all so following algorithms.
Interesting. And you tell me they can be standardized and they're limited?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. If you think about finance, people think it's very complicated. And there are so many financial contracts. But if you focus on these patterns, as we just have seen two of them, then it burns down to less than 3 dozen.
So what you're telling me is that you've standardized 3 dozen contract types and you've created the standard?
Yes. The standard is called ACTUS. And ACTUS stands for Algorithmic Contract Type Unified Standard. And the A is the most important. It's the algorithms, because that is the thing which is forgotten in finance.
You are one of the creators of that standard. So what are the specific features of the ACTUS standard?
Here we see the ACTUS website. There are 3 main features. On the left we have the taxonomy. This taxonomy gives you an overview of all the possible patterns, from simple saving account to mortgages, to leasing contracts, to loans, to swaps, futures, options, to CDOs, whatever you take, which covers basically everything which is out there in finance. So that's the taxonomy. Then we have the data dictionary. That is the data background, traditional data dictionary. And then the third one is the algorithm. Here specified in the fourth, in the demo app, you can play with the algorithms, you can enter, and in the fifth one you can download the algorithm. So the algorithm represents the legal intention between the two counterparties.
Traditional banking systems, right, they're digital already. They represent digital financial products already. All the products that live in banking systems, they're digital already. So
yes.
What's the problem?
And that's the problem. They are digital, but they have no standard. The simple bond we saw is represented in 1,000 systems in 1,000 different ways. So that makes them fully not interoperable, not only between banks, even inside a single bank. That's the reason for the chaos.
So, but that's great. So now we have, DeFi, we have people issuing digital standards on Ethereum with smart contracts. So we can clean up the mess. It's a bright new future.
Not like that, in my opinion. First of all, the current systems have a strong focus on payments and collateralized lending.
So in DeFi, you see a predominance on payments and
exactly.
on collateralized lending.
This is finance, but it's a fringe activity of finance. As you said, the core of finance is moving money over time. So that is one thing. Secondly, everything which is done, even the small part of finance, is not standardized. And the smart financial contract on Ethereum is actually only a programming language. It's Solidity. And Solidity or a programming language, a Turing-complete programming language, is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition.
So what you're saying is that without a standard to really digitally describe the intended exchange of cash flows, there will be even more chaos in digital financial asset or in the digital financial asset world than in the legacy world?
Yes, because in banking, we have today thousands of systems. So the same bond is represented in maybe thousands of systems. On the blockchain, without standard, we will have millions of systems because everybody can program the thing itself and everybody will do it slightly different.
What you're saying is that without a standard to digitally describe the intended exchange of cash flows, there will be even more chaos in the digital financial asset world than in the legacy financial asset world?
Yes. In banking, we might have thousands of systems to represent that simple bond we saw there on the left side. They are doing the same thing, but differently. In the new digital world, we will have millions. Each person can program the same bond itself in a different way. But with a standard, these millions will boil down to less than 3 dozens.
So we will have an asset interoperability because we can compare assets thanks to the standard description of the financial contract. Now, with Octus and blockchain, so how do we get this together and what do we really try to achieve when we now combine the standard with the blockchain?
Yeah. Now, first of all, concerning interoperability. Thanks to the standard, I can place the data here, I can place the data there. You can analyze it, you can understand it, and not only the data, because finance is cash flows. You understand at any point in time what are the cash flows to that financial contract. We contribute by combining the best of blockchain with the best of finance. So we do on the blockchain what the blockchain was intended to do, and we do off-chain what the blockchain cannot do. On the blockchain, we put the state of the contract. We put tokens that represent ownership of that contract, and this token and the known state, the auditable state of the contract, they make it tradable, they make it securitizable, and everybody sees the state. So it's a fully trustful environment.
So what you're telling me basically is that we will change the paradigm for trading and for securitization of financial contracts.
Yes.
In fact, these will be smart financial contracts because they will be intelligible by anyone who is looking at them. They will be both machine readable and machine executable in themselves.
Yeah, I would even say the true contract resides in the computer. That is different to by having a token on a barrel of whiskey, where the whiskey hopefully is not digital.
Or what we see today is most of the tokenization platforms, they don't truly digitize the underlying cash flows. They just point to a contract that resides somewhere else, but they do not actually represent the digital, the cash flows in a digital form.
Exactly. They actually point to the paper to a paper where the contract is written.
Interesting. I think we're at the end of our time here. So, we're looking forward to seeing this in action. Of course, our goal is to implement this first on Casper, but the architecture will be open to any blockchain. So, thank you, Willy, for the insights into the standards and, of course, how we expect that capital markets will change and what smart financial contracts really mean for the future of finance. And now we're returning to the next panel session.